UNICEF says nearly 7 million children in the country are not going to school as worsening crises threaten to disrupt their education. We have reconnected with Arshad Malik, the country director for Save the Children. He's live for us in Khartoum. Arshad, how did Sudan get to this level?
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to represent the children and people of Sudan on this very important issue. How did we get ourselves here? There are multiple factors which are involved. The economic crisis, COVID-19, the seasonal events, including the flooding, the frequent displacement due to the various reasons, including the security situation, lack of sufficient resources, and I'll also say the delayed action by international community. We have often spoken about the impact and needs during this last 3 years because of certain crises, but that was mainly focused on food insecurity, health situation, nutrition, water crisis in combination with the political and economic crisis, and the impact of global crises such as COVID and Ukraine. But unfortunately, education was not prioritized, and it is not considered as a life-saving intervention in this country and elsewhere. In a country which is severely affected by natural disasters, we are already dealing with the flooding 3 years in a row now. There are economic barriers. 55% of the schools in Sudan charge school fee. Teachers are paid very low, or they are not paid, and they are not getting incentives. Therefore, their commitment or motivation is very low, which results in the strikes. And then you have the reduced household purchasing power due to inflation, which then results in child labor, which results in early child marriages, poor nutrition and health facilities available along, and large number of children are stunted with lifelong implications. And then we have limitations at school level, not having enough schools or infrastructure, not having enough number of teachers. And I think we can talk to some numbers. Here we have 4 out of 10 school age girls who are out of school. 3 out of 10 boys are out of school. We have 7 out of 10 10-year-old are unable to read or understand simple sentences. We have a ratio of 1 teacher versus 76 students. We have 1 toilet per 96 students. So this tells you the situation on ground, and then on top of that, not enough learning material available, gender insensitive teaching practices, digital divide, and then limited availability of alternative learning opportunities. So this is a, like I'll say, perfect storm in making, where the whole generation might lose the opportunity to learn if the international community does not act very fast.
You know, just listening to you paint for us the picture of how the education system in Sudan is affected, I think it's heartbreaking to hear you say that in the face of other needs that are seen as more urgent, education is not really prioritized. And yet, experts are warning that without urgent action, the learning crisis in the country will become a generational catastrophe. What are some of these urgent steps that need to be taken?
Thanks for asking this question, which is quite important and pertinent as well. In Sudan, almost 7 million children do not go to school. And I'm sure you quoted this number before. And yet desperately, these girls and boys need opportunity for learning. School years for 12 million school-going children are heavily interrupted and challenged by lack of sufficient teachers, as I said before, infrastructure and learning environment. And no country can afford to have 1/3 of its school-age population with no basic literacy, numeracy, and digital skills. And education is just not a right; it's also a lifeline for peaceful, productive, and prosperous future. So, in terms of like the urgent action, the immediate need is to allocate funding for education, prioritize funding for education at the moment. There is a humanitarian response put together by the the UN and international NGOs and national NGOs, which is $102 million for next year. and it's only 13% funded, which means that only $13 million are secured. Now, because education is not prioritized as life-saving, therefore it does not get, and it only gets 7% of the total allocation from all the resources. So what we are demanding at the moment is that education should be considered as a life-saving activity. We need to start looking at resources to be made available for the people of Sudan, for retaining the teachers in the school, providing quality learning and teaching methodologies, having enough learning space, learning material, and then also some kind of like a collaboration, and looking at some aspects of localization on how do we do more cost effective intervention which enables us to reach more children, bring more children. School feeding is very important in the current situation where the food security is worsening in the country. So school feeding is also a very important factor we need to consider.
All right, Arshad Malik, thank you very much for speaking to us.